Hello, I'm Harry. I wrote this book, Responsive Teaching, which came out in June. And in this video, I'm just going to say a little bit about why I wrote it, what's in it, and how you might want to make use of it, and encourage you to get in touch with me and let me know what you made of it. So, responsive teaching, what is it? How did I come to write it? I guess I wrote it because a publisher approached me and said, you should write a book about formative assessment. And I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I've been trying to improve my use of formative assessment in the classroom for a few years. I've been writing about it. I think there's probably something in this. And I chose to call it responsive teaching because what Dylan William had said really appealed to me. Which is, he said, assessment for learning was probably a mistake as a name, because as soon as people think assessment, they think tests, think exams, think data. And what really matters is the interaction in the classroom and a teacher's knowledge of what students are learning and ability to respond to that. So I'm sort of pottering away trying to write this book about formative assessment. And what I realise is actually cognitive science needed to play a really big role in that. And the reason is that cognitive science really provides us with a great evidence base on how people learn. And so the first 2-3 chapters particularly, so they went off to reviewers and reviewers came back and said, it's not very responsive, is it? And actually, they're right, it's not very responsive for the first half of the book. Because I think we can't be responsive until we're really clear what it is we're responding to. So it's only once we have a really clear purpose in the lesson that we can then say, okay, have students achieve that purpose? How can we help them get better? So that's the two things. It's trying to synthesize the cognitive science, how do people learn, how can we plan for that learning? And then the formative assessment, how much did they learn? What happened? How can we help make things better? So in writing the book, there were two things that were really, really important to me. The first was I wanted to take the evidence and synthesize it really clearly. Like, if you're a busy teacher, you don't have time to be sifting through paper after paper trying to find what's the one nugget, or researcher A says this, researcher B says that. What am I meant to do? So I've worked my way through as much of the research as I could in the time that I had, and I've just tried to make it really clear, comprehensible, usable for teachers. The second thing is equally or perhaps more important is to give concrete, there's loads of people telling us what to do. What I really wanted to offer is concrete examples of how good intentions can turn into reality. And so to me, I think the case studies that teachers have written are one of the highlights of the book. Because what you've got there is examples of people who are trying to do these things, trying to do some of the things that the evidence suggests, and struggling, and in the process finding ways that fit them in their classroom for their students, that get them a little bit closer to better practice, a little bit closer to achieving the goals that they want to achieve. And I guess the one thing to add is I think what's really powerful about these case studies is that they show we don't have to be perfect, and indeed we never are going to be perfect. I think quite often when you get guidance on how to improve your teaching, you're like, oh, how am I ever going to live up to this level, whatever it is? And the case studies, I feel, really humanise the good intentions, the best practice, the evidence that we're all trying to work towards, and say, okay, imperfectly, here's my best shot at it. This is what I've learned, and this is what I'm working on next. So what are you going to find in the book? The book focuses on 6 endemic problems. So after an introduction that sets out why I've written it and kind of the structure, I look at 6 things which I would claim every teacher has to deal with pretty much every day. And I take the definition of an endemic problem as against an exotic problem. So an exotic problem is like the time that a wasp flew into my classroom. Only happened once, not really worth preparing for, stressful as it was at the time. Whereas an endemic problem is something that's utterly predictable. Teachers everywhere, every day face it, and therefore those are the ones that I argue we should probably focus on. So the first endemic problem is there's so much that we're trying to teach. We've got massive specifications, and at the same time every day students are forgetting some of what they've learnt previously. So the problem is how are we meant to plan our teaching given these two problems? And so then I look at the unit planning approaches that might make this easier for us. And the second problem is basically the same thing in lesson format. So it's exactly the same issue. We've only got one lesson. There's so much we want our students to know. How do we fit it all in? The third problem then looks at, okay, we've got this standard of work that we want students to achieve. How do we show them what it is we want them to achieve? How do we show them what success looks like? Because only once they know what success looks like, they can try and achieve it themselves. Fourth problem then, okay, students are doing stuff in the lesson. What have they understood? How can we tell at the end of the lesson? And then the fifth one takes that a step further. What if we don't want to wait till the end of the lesson? How can we sort of track students' thinking and changing understanding when there's so many of them, there's so much going on at any one moment? And then the sixth problem is, okay, taking this work in, whatever it is, how can we give feedback in a way that's sustainable, efficient, and really helps students to improve? And then the seventh problem really is, okay, these are all great ideas, how do we make them work? So I've just got sort of suggestions for teachers who are working at different levels, so NQTs, heads of department, and so on. What do I hope you'll get out of the book? I guess I hope it's not a waste of your time. I hope that as you go through you find things that are new, because I'm sure there are many things that you'll find as you read that you're familiar with, or you've heard done, or you've been doing for years. So I hope as you go through you'll just find a few gems that are like, oh, I hadn't looked at it that way, or hadn't heard about this might be useful, first thing. But secondly, I hope you'll just find like really practical stuff that you can see fit your teaching. And I'm really conscious, I tried in writing the book down like a maths example, history example, English example, primary, secondary, but it's not perfect, and it may be that you go through and you're like, why is there not an example of this for what I teach? But I hope there'll be enough in the book and enough varied examples that you'll be able to look at it and say, okay, now I know what I'm going to do with year 7 tomorrow. So last thing to say is the whole thing's about being responsive, right? So let me know what you made of it. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know how you used it. Let me know how it could be better. Because that's the whole principle that we're working on here. Thank you very much.